Hey there, this is Angela. Welcome to the channel or welcome back. Today I'd like to show you guys some of the new trees I've planted this year. Stay tuned. So up kind of near the house, so as you can see, house is there, garden area is over there, veggie garden that is, swinging around. These are the 3 new trees I've planted, and our big pond is down there, just like kind of slopes down right there. That's a ridge going across and slopes down, and then there's the pond. So what I've got here are 3 paper birch trees, and the big stump in the middle was an old pine tree that we had taken down back in 2012, probably not long after we bought the place, because it was dead, and we just left the stump there. I had thought about doing something with that, but now it's rotting out, so eventually we'll have to maybe have that completely removed, take it down to the ground and get a stump grinder out here. So these are the 3 birch trees. There's 2 of them there, and then over here more in the shade is the 3rd one. And I planted these deliberately in a triangle, and I left enough space in the middle of them for when they're bigger, like close to where this pine stump is, but maybe more central there, to put a nice chair, maybe an Adirondack chair or something, like some kind of loungy chair to sit under the shade of the birch trees and listen to the pond. And eventually we're working on the top of the pond there where it's overgrown, trying to clear that out and just leave only the good trees and shrubs, and just kind of leave all of like the good trees, quote unquote, and shrubs, so that you can sit there and overlook the pond, watch it, and listen to the sound of the water. So yeah, that's like the long-term goal. I realize it's going to be quite a while before these trees are that tall. Hopefully, you know, not more than 10 years. We'll see. I think that they do grow pretty fast, you know, compared to other trees, but I'm not 100% sure like how fast that is. So let's go on up to the front of the property and I'll show you the other trees. So leaving the front of the house area here and walking almost all the way up to the front, might be a little bit of a walk here, I'll show you the other trees that I've planted. And I've got some apple trees and some more hardwood trees. And that's primarily for just ecological value, for the shade, and also for the beautiful fall colors. So that's what the plans are long term for these other trees I'll show you. And I'll also give you an update on our nectarine tree, which this is the 2nd year that it's fruited, and there's a lot of nectarines on. I'm hoping that we'll be able to protect those. Last year we had serious pest issues with that tree. So I have kind of a plan for this year and hoping that that works. So we're coming up to the fruit trees now. And this is the nectarine tree here. I'll show you some of the small fruits that are on. I haven't counted them, but I think there's probably around a dozen or so. So one up there. And a couple there. Although I have noticed some of them already have some damage. We ended up buying some of those mesh bags that are meant for protecting fruit on fruit trees. And I think today I'm going to get out here and apply those to the fruits on this tree and hopefully like minimize any further damage to the trees and the fruit. Then I've got 3 apple trees which are new here. I think you can kind of see them. They have that green protective netting on just because of the heavy deer pressure that we have here. They were just planted this spring, so they won't fruit for a few years probably, although they're pretty good size. All the fruit trees came from Stark Brothers. I've bought from them before and been pretty happy with the quality. And then all the other trees, like the birch trees and the other one, the hardwoods that I'll show you here in a minute, they all came from the Arbor Day Foundation. So I'm pretty happy with those too. So back to the apple trees. They're pretty tall. I'm 5'6", and this one is pretty much as tall as I am, maybe a few inches shorter. And we did have some deer damage to this one here because the netting had dropped down and so the top was exposed, and we did notice some evidence that it had been munched. I bought 3 different varieties that will cross-pollinate each other. This one is called Wolf River. I kind of made a better tag for the tree and hung it onto the tree with twine. I've found that the tags from the nursery, these little doodads, they don't always stay on, and I've even seen some of those fade over time. That one's Wolf River, and then the other 2 are Liberty and Empire, although I can't remember which one is where, but those are the varieties. So this one is Empire, and the other one is Liberty. One consideration I had to account for when I ordered apple trees, because this is my 3rd time trying apple trees, was to get varieties that show some or plenty of resistance to cedar apple rust. We have cedar trees all over our property here, and there's no like getting around that. There's nowhere on our property that I could plant an apple tree to be far enough away from the cedar trees so that it wouldn't be at risk for cedar apple rust. So these 3 varieties have been shown to have a lot of resistance to that. So fingers crossed that 3rd time's a charm and that I did good choosing the varieties. And if they develop the cedar apple rust again this year, then I think I'm probably going to give up on trying apples and maybe get some peach trees. The thing about peaches, while I like them, I don't care for that fuzzy like skin that they have, and same with my husband. So maybe we could just get a couple more nectarine trees or try some cherry trees. But apples are my favorite fruit, and I eat pretty much an apple every day, usually, give or take. And so I'm really, really looking forward to being able to grow our own apples here, but we'll have to see. So continuing our walk on up to the very front of the property, we'll take a look at the other trees that I got in this spring. These are the hardwoods that will hopefully grow up to be very big and strong, provide a lot of shade, a lot of food for the wildlife, and beautiful fall color for us. So this first one right there, I planted in this kind of open space that we have amidst all these decorative grasses, and was kind of running out of places to plant trees because we do have a number of them already. This one is an American sweet gum, and I was kind of uncertain whether it was still alive because the birch trees that arrived at the same time, all of them from the Arbor Day Foundation, those were already leafing out when we got them in a couple of months ago, and they were flourishing and looking great. But these 3 that I'm going to show you now, they haven't leafed out yet, except for this sweet gum just started leafing out. So I'll show you that here in a second. So I was a little concerned of whether they were even still alive or not, but I think that they are, so yay! So this is the sweet gum here, and it has developed a little bit of foliage, enough for me to know that it's going to make it, or at least that it's not dead. And moving on, I'll show you the hickory and the oak. And I've read that for ecological considerations and wildlife, that an oak is the very best tree you can plant as far as what it provides to nature and to the environment and to the animals. So I want to get more oaks growing, but I'm starting with the one. This one is the hickory. It's called a shell bark hickory, and it just looked like a stick. I thought, is it alive or not? But if you guys can see that, if it's focusing, it's got some little bit of growth right there. So it's alive, and I hope that it will flourish. And this one here is, it's an oak, and I forget what variety it is, but we will find out. Scarlet Oak. Yeah, that's right. So this one hasn't leafed out yet, but it does have, apologies for the camera everywhere, but it does have some buds on it. So I think that'll be leafing out pretty soon. And I'm going to back up to give you a little bit of an overview. So this area where these two trees were planted here, it's kind of a big open field type area. It gets a lot of sun. So there was a lot of possibilities. But my thoughts were that rather than try to grow vegetables up here, which would be perfect because it gets so much sun, this spot right here is pretty far from the house, and we don't have water run out to this area, so it would be a chore just to keep the vegetables watered. So I thought, why not make it into like a little grove of trees, and it'll kind of balance out like all those grasses that we have next to it. So yeah. And just straight ahead is another cedar tree. We have them all throughout the property. We also have a lot of pines, which those are my favorite kind of trees. If I had to narrow it down to just one kind of tree that's my favorite, I think I'd just have to go with a good old pine tree. But straight up ahead, that one, that's another cedar tree. There's no getting away from them here. I'm guessing that they're just native to the area, and I don't know, they almost seem kind of a little bit invasive. Like in our deep woods area, we have one grove that's almost nothing but cedar trees. So I don't know if they were like deliberately planted there at some point or just found their way there. So we'll walk on back up to the house. And before we get up there, I'm going to show you guys this Catalpa tree. We have 2 or 3 of these. Beautiful. The leaves are huge and they're kind of almost heart-shaped, but they make me think of a tropical tree, and they get gorgeous blooms, which are starting to die off now. Let's see if I can. This one looks like a nice, pretty clump. Beautiful flowers. They don't really have any fragrance to them that I can tell, but the trees themselves are just gorgeous. I love the way the light shines through, lighting up the underside of the leaves. It's so pretty. We also have a few of these Tulip Poplars. Those are nice trees to have. They're gigantic, very stately, provide a lot of shade. They have pretty flowers as well. But we're finding recently we have a lot of spruce trees on the property that we didn't put in. They were already here, but they're all dying off. Like this one right here. I mean, it's still green at the very tip top up there, but it's pretty, essentially it's kind of dead or almost dead. But that's pretty much happened to all of our spruce trees. So I think we're going to have to get our tree service in here to get those down soon, open up the space for replanting. The sooner we can get the trees in, the more likely we'll be able to enjoy them in our lifetime as they get bigger. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. Just some of the new trees and some of the older trees that have been here for a while. I hope you found this interesting, and if you did, let me know. Drop me a comment and let me know what your favorite tree is. Are you guys planting any trees this year? If so, which ones? And until next time, bye.